Have you been considering getting a sugar glider, but you want to know if it's the right pet for you? If only there was a way to know, like how. I got you. Let's talk about it. Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Morgan. I'm an approved vendor and sugar glider mentor, and I am here to provide sugar glider education and talk about all things sugar glider. I also have Burton with me, so he's going to make a special guest appearance a little bit later. But let's talk about the 5 things that you should know before getting sugar gliders. Number 1, they need time to bond with you, and they need time to spend with you. You know, it depends on the glider, and it depends on your bond with them, and it depends on their personality. But figure at least a few times a week, they're going to need time to spend with you, regardless of whether it is a bonding scarf. I make these, by the way. This is one that I made. If you would like to purchase one for yourself, you can check out my website, link down below. But anyway, this is a bonding scarf. I use these a lot because I have neck issues, but also because it allows me to be hands-free and I don't have to worry whether or not somebody's going to escape or leave or go somewhere. I like to spend a lot of time outside, especially editing videos and things like that, so I don't have to worry that somebody's going to go on a field trip somewhere. So these have a zipper and they have grommets for air holes. So this is Burton. He's my Joey. He is he's a few months old. This is his crabbing. We're still in the bonding process. I have had him since the end of November. So he is taking a little bit longer to bond. I sit with him every single day. I pet him, I handle him. He lets me pet him and handle him. But this is, he is what's called a ringtail mosaic. The light probably bothers him a little bit, but he was 12 weeks old on November 29th. So, and he was neutered on the 24th. So, we are taking the time to bond. He is alone right now. Because he's a little small to go in with my others. I will be doing videos about my introduction process, but right now we are in the bonding process. So sometimes he will let me, sometimes he'll let me hold him, sometimes he'll let me play with him, sometimes he crabs at me and is upset if I wake him up, sometimes he's upset and wants to be held in the pouch. So it's a learning process. It's a conversation between us. I'm learning what he likes and he's learning what I'm like. He does bite. I don't know if you can see, but yeah, he does bite. You can't really see it here. It's pretty bright, but he drew blood on me the other day because he decided to leave right as I was putting his food in, and I had to pick him up, and he bit me about 7 or 8 times as hard as he could on my finger and drew blood. Luckily, you know, I've been bit by much larger things, and so I'm like, okay, but if you're not used to that too, that brings me to number 2. All right, so number 2, sugar gliders bite. Does it stop and mostly after you're bonded? Yeah. Do they bite? Yes. Does it hurt? Sometimes. So as I was explaining before, sometimes my little girl Olive will bite me because my soap smells good. And she's like, oh, that's delicious. Is Mom a snack? And she'll kind of like, and I'm like, ma'am. He was trying to bite me to hurt me. He wanted me to drop him. And he did draw blood. You know, is that something where, he's a bad glider and I'm a bad owner? No. That's not it at all. It happens. He decided, now I have to make sure I put the food in even a little bit earlier so he's totally asleep while I do that. Usually I offer him a treat, and I did, but this time he didn't want it, and he decided to go on a joyride. He was having a spicy night, and I picked him up. I did what I had to do. I made sure I kept my eye on him, and I picked him up, and I didn't even have time to grab fleece. I wanted to make sure I got to him, and I got him as soon as I could. So so he did draw blood, and that's something that happens, and you kind of have to be prepared for. Are their teeth pretty small? Yeah. Will most of the bites hurt? Not really. Do my other ones bite me when I trim their nails? Yeah, they try. And that's why, if you haven't seen the Sugar Glider nail trim video that I have on my channel, I will link that below, and I will show you how I trim their nails while avoiding their teeth. But it happens. It's a part of bonding. If he gets kind of spooked, sometimes he'll still lunge out of the pouch. It's getting him as a Joey, it's gonna take him a little bit longer than the other ones because he did come from his mom, so it's gonna take him a little bit longer, and that's okay. We're learning, and that's part of the reason why I have him with me almost every day. So, and I'll show you some of the other pouches in another video that I've been using to take him with me. He chaperoned me to my dentist. And I'll show you some of the other pouches that I used in another video. But it's going to take time, and it's going to take effort on both of you. It's going to take time for him to trust you. Earlier today I was petting him and I was snuggling him, and he's nuzzling into my hand and under my chin. And, each time it's different. They have different personalities, and, they just need to get to know us. So he's getting to know me, and, he's spending time with me, and he, asks me to pet him. He'll literally, stick his little head up. But as you saw, he's not always about it. Sometimes he is not, and that's okay. And they have personalities just like us, and I have to be respectful of his wants and his needs. So just like we expect others to be respectful of us and our needs. So there's a learning process, but your gliders typically will not just love you right away, and that's normal. And I will be posting bonding tips and things like that. But yeah, so I have him in the pouch. He hangs out with me all day. And the other ones, I have them in another scarf, and they hang out with me as well, and we all hang out. So, but they take time, and they do bite. Number 3, they need a special diet, and it has to be fed consistently. So if you haven't seen my other video about Sugar Glider staple diets, I will link that below as well. But they do need special staple diets. They need certain nutrients, and in order to be able to process right, stay regular, and maintain the body composition that they need. They are very prone to something called metabolic bone disease, and that can happen when there is not enough calcium in their diet, or if there's too much phosphorus without enough calcium. I explain it more in the Sugar Glider diet staple diet video, but they need specific diets. They need protein, they need a certain amount, and they need certain fruits and vegetables. So I feed what's called the OHPW diet, or the original high protein Wambaroo. If you're interested in that, there is a link down below where you can find all the information you would like to on that. It is also talked about in my staple diet video, but I prep it when I run out. It basically lasts me a month, maybe a little bit under. And there is a topping and a fruit and veggie salad component to it. And I prep that. I prep a month's worth of it. So as I've mentioned in other videos, I do have narcolepsy with cataplexy. So some days are really good and some days are really bad. And the great thing about that is, even on a bad day, I can take it out of the freezer and have it ready. And I have a full complete meal for them that is nutritionally complete. And I didn't have to do much. I literally just had to put it into a bowl. Or if I'm having a really bad day and I literally can't get up, all I have to do is, I have to live with my parents, unfortunately. Well, I love them. I love my family. They're amazing. And I really, we're more like a team. But I do, I can't live on my own because of the medications that I take. So, sometimes, and also because sometimes I just can't like get up. So sometimes too, I'll ask them to do it, but it's all done. All they have to do is scoop it. There's nothing they have to actually do or worry about. So there are definitely ways, especially if you're in a similar situation, there are definitely ways you do not have to cut and prep fresh fruit every night or cook things every single night for them. You definitely don't have to do that. There are ways, watch the video. I talk about how I do it. I talk about how I make it easier on myself. And I know, so I do it on my good days so that I know that I have it for my bad days, and ways that I can do it so I don't completely take away all of my spoons just by making it that day. So definitely check out that video, especially if you're in a similar situation. If you have any questions, feel free to ask down below. I definitely have a ton of different ideas. If you're a spoonie like myself, that we have to modify a lot of different parts of life, and I've definitely been able to figure out a lot of ways where I can still be the kind of sugar glider and pet owner that I really want to be, but have ways to make it a little bit easier on myself. And I can definitely make more videos about that. So if you want to see more videos about that, definitely comment below as well. But that being said, they do require a budget for the fruits and vegetables to make up that month's worth. And they do require a budget for that, for their food, and to get, the supplements that they need depending on what they need. So they definitely need specific things depending on the diet that you choose, but they need a staple diet. So, and that brings me to number 4. All right, number 4, they require a budget, and it definitely doesn't need to be a high budget. It doesn't need to be like, thousands of dollars a month. It's not like that, but they do need specific things, and they do need, things to be replaced. And you do have to be able to afford vet care, pet insurance. I always recommend monthly. Definitely do pet insurance if you are on the fence or don't know about it or are curious about it. I also have a video about pet insurance linked below. It's on my channel as well, where I talk about it, how it's helped me. I will never own a pet again without it. And, but yeah, I explain all about my sugar glider pet insurance, in that video. So check that out if that's something you're curious about. But, they need vet visits. My kids, unfortunately, my trio in my other cage has had dental issues starting pretty much in July, and it's continued. So I've had to give medication. I've had to take them to the vet for follow-ups. I've had to have anesthesia, dentals, all kinds of things, x-rays, CT scans. So I definitely, had to pay. I did get reimbursed by my insurance, but I did have to pay up front. They also need cages. They need good cages. They need sturdy cages. There is a link down below that'll take you to everything that I recommend for sugar gliders. And I will also link the cage that I personally use down below. It's called a double critter nation, but they do need sturdy cages. They need bowls, they need water bottles, they need toys, they need safe toys, preferably from approved vendors. They need bonding items like scarves, shirts, things like that. They need, or you can have fleece on hand. There are definitely ways to make your own, but they need to be made a specific way. They also need cage items. They need pouches to switch out. They do need their pouches switched out every couple of weeks. They do need Sometimes they chew through their pouches. They need their pouches checked, their toys checked. If it's been chewed through, it needs to be taken out and substituted. They need to have multiple sleeping pouches, for choices, and also to help with aggression. They need multiple places. If somebody's getting picked on, they need to go somewhere else. So those are definitely things to consider. You'll have to update. You can't just buy, a leash and be done with it. It's definitely, you will need a budget for upkeep, for food, and in general, things like that. So again, I highly recommend pet insurance, but make sure that you do have a vet budget and that you are able to take them to the vet, whether or not, they do need checkups. And a lot of times you can catch things early if you take them in for yearly checkups. I personally do every 6 months checkups, which is when we found the teeth issues, but that just depends on you and your vet, but you do have to be prepared for that. And finally, that brings me to number 5. Number 5, they are nocturnal. They need a decent amount of space in your house, and they do have a little bit of a smell. That's I know it's like 3 different things, but I'm just putting it all into the one category. But basically, so with cleaning rituals and schedules and certain cage types and cleaners and different things like that, proper diet, it's not going to smell bad. But they're not scentless. They're not like a completely scentless pet, like a fish or something like that. They do still have just an odor. They do scent around their cage, and they will still have a very slight odor with, them being on a staple diet and cleaning pouches every couple weeks. It's very minimal, and switching out the pee pads underneath and everything like that. And with regular maintenance, it is, it's not anything overpowering. Especially if your males are neutered. If you have a neutered male, the scent could be stronger. I always recommend having your male neutered unless you are breeding and you have lineage. We'll talk about that in another video, but that's really important. But if you have unneutered males or females, and you're feeding a staple diet, the smell's not going to be overwhelming, but there will still be a little bit, so they're not going to be scentless. Another thing is too, they do need space for their cage. Their cages aren't small. They do need space to run, glide, play. I keep mine out in my living room, but they take up, I have 2 double critter nations attached side by side, and I will do a cage tour at some point. But they, it's a large enclosure, and they're happy, and that's what I care about most, is their happiness, so they can run, jump, swing, play freely, but it does take up space. They are also nocturnal, so if you are a very light sleeper, or you have a very rigid sleep schedule where you need to, be in bed by a certain time and up by a certain time for work, and you can't have any noise, they may not be the right pet for you. They do play at this time. So I hear them all the time with toys and slapping against the walls of the cage, and they're tail carriers. So they will take it and they'll jump, and I'll hear the toy jerk around because there are terms on it and things that they can play with to make that noise. Because they need to forage. That's part of what keeps them happy. But you can hear it. You can hear their wheels. You can hear them running. You can hear them running along the cage. So they're definitely not quiet. They do jump, and you can hear it. And if that's something where you can only keep them in your room and you can only sleep with extreme and utter quiet, that's definitely something to consider. They are nocturnal. Mine get up around 10 p.m., give or take a little bit. And that's definitely something, they're up until about 6:30. So I'll get up in the morning, I'll say hi to them, they're running around. But yeah, they're definitely, or 7 o'clock, usually 6:30, 7 a.m. They're up running around still. Are they up the entire night? No, they're usually up for like an hour at a time, and then they'll go back, and then they'll sleep, and then they'll get up again. But that is definitely something to keep in mind. So, if a lot of people, if they have open guest rooms, they'll keep them in there, different things like that. But before you get them, they will require space. They do require large enclosures. They're not odorless. So if you don't like having any type of pet smell in your house at all, definitely that's something to consider. And they do make noise at night, playing. Sometimes they bark too. It sounds like a very tiny, like baby chihuahua. But sometimes they do. A lot of times it's because they want attention. Sometimes it's because they like to sing you the song of their people. We joke around, like in a lot of the groups, it's like, let me sing you the song of my people at 3 a.m. That is what they'll do. So just know that going into it. Sometimes if you happen to be at like a show and you run into certain sugar glider vendors that I will not name, they'll tell you differently. But know that, they are a commitment. They are a time commitment. They're a financial commitment. They do make noise. They will take up room. They're amazing pets. They're incredible. I love them. Like, they have changed my life, and I am so glad and honored that I am able to own them and have them and spend time with them. But, there's not a lot of information out there, and I really want to give you what it's truly like having them. So I hope that this is helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below in the comments. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any of my content, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!